Hi, I'm Maribel. My parents smiled at my brother's $60,000 celebration, then smashed a glass against my face when I refused to hand over my condo. They said I was dramatic. Then they tried to list my home behind my back. I didn't just survive, I evicted them. But the real story? It's worse than you think. Why would a family go that far just to erase one of their own? Have you ever felt like your own blood saw you as disposable? What would you do if your parents weaponized a party against you? And just curious, what time is it where you are? And what city are you watching from? Drop it in the comments. I'd really love to know. I pulled up in my 10-year-old Honda, wedging it between a gleaming Porsche and a sleek black Tesla. The valet hesitated when he took my keys, like the car might stain his gloves. I adjusted my blazer, smoothed down my hair, and reminded myself to breathe. This wasn't my world, but it used to be. Inside, the party unfolded like a magazine spread. Soft jazz, crystal chandeliers, a wall of champagne flutes flickering under golden lights. Damien's face beamed from a massive projection screen. Celebrating Damien, it read, not a mention of his sister. I held my modestly wrapped gift and approached the check-in table. The woman scanned the list, frowned, and said, "Oh, you're the +1 under Carter family." She slapped a generic guest badge into my palm before turning to the next name. I stared at the badge. No title, no name, just guest. I pinned it over my heart like a scar. The hall buzzed with laughter and familiar voices. No one turned toward me. My assigned seat was tucked behind a pillar near the kitchen door, where the staff brushed past, and the music barely reached. My name card was bent. Napkin wrinkled, a silent signal, loud in its pettiness. I watched the toasts begin, everyone lining up to glorify Damien's promotion, his upcoming wedding, his generosity. No one mentioned who'd co-signed his first business loan. No one looked my way. Then Delilah, my mother, raised her glass. And now, she purred into the microphone, a special surprise from someone very close to Damien's heart. "Maribel, sweetie, come up here." My stomach flipped. I stood slowly, legs reluctant, eyes followed, phones lifted. I stepped onto the stage like a condemned woman approaching a guillotine. Delilah smiled wide, teeth too white. "Don't you think it would be such a meaningful gesture," she said sweetly, "if Maribel gifted her condo to Damien and Lena as a wedding present?" Gasps scattered like raindrops. My brother looked away. No one said a word. I blinked. "That's not something I agreed to." She laughed. "Well, now's the perfect time to say yes." "I'm sorry," I said, voice steady. "That won't be happening." I walked off that stage without looking back. The crowd parted without touching me. I headed for the dessert table, needing something, anything to anchor me. That's when Randall's hand came into view and the champagne glass shattered against my temple. Pain flashed white. Then wet warmth slid down my cheek. I stumbled sideways, catching the table with one hand. The macarons were crushed beneath my palm. Someone gasped. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." But no one moved. Delilah's voice was ice behind me. "You embarrassed us, Maribel." I turned to see phones raised like weapons, recording, not helping. The room spun. The music kept playing. No one came forward. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I walked out. The Uber driver asked if I needed a hospital. I told him to just drive. Blood trickled down my neck. I pressed a napkin to it and stared out the window. "They drew first blood," I whispered. "And they think that was the worst I'd let them do." I woke with the taste of metal in my mouth. My temple pulsed, the skin tight and tender where the glass had hit. I didn't cry last night. I didn't even sleep, not really. Just lay in bed watching headlights roll across the ceiling like ghosts of a celebration I was never meant to be part of. No messages. My phone sat on the nightstand, lit with everyone's silence. Not one from Mom, not a sorry from Damien, not even a cowardly excuse from Dad. As if the blood had never happened. As if I had never happened. I rolled onto my side, blinking against the cold morning light, and saw the badge still pinned to my jacket on the chair. +1. A placeholder. A nobody. One day before the party I should have known. The RSVP had gone unanswered for days. Then came the email from Henrietta, brisk, clipped, perfumed in passive aggression. Since we didn't hear back, we've listed you under Dorian's guest count. See you there. I stared at it for a full hour, fingers hovering over the keyboard. I typed a response, then deleted it. Wrote another, I'm not his date. I'm his sister. Deleted again. Finally, I closed the laptop. It's just a clerical error, I whispered aloud. Don't escalate, don't be difficult. But the moment I stepped up to the registration table, I knew it wasn't just a mistake. The volunteer didn't look up. Name? Maribel Carter. She skimmed the list. Don't see that here. Oh, wait, you must be Dorian's guest. She smiled, all teeth, and handed me the badge. Plain white, no name, just +1. My hands went cold. Actually, I'm his sister. That's how they submitted it. I didn't argue, I took it, pinned it over my chest like a bruise. All night, Iris avoided me. She didn't make it obvious, just averted her gaze whenever I passed. She'd nod to others, laugh at their stories. But when her eyes flicked to mine, they slid away like oil on water. Only once, during the gift opening, did she glance over. Her lips moved around one word. Sorry. She looked away before I could decide if I'd imagined it. It wasn't until hours later, after I'd washed the blood from my hair and disinfected my temple, that my phone vibrated. A message from Iris. I should have said something earlier. I knew what they were doing, but I didn't know how to stop it. I stared at it. Stared so long the screen dimmed. My thumb hovered over the keyboard. And then the message vanished. This message is no longer available. I tapped. Refreshed. Gone. Iris had pulled the words back like a hand withdrawing from mine. It wasn't just my family that silenced me. It was the silence of those who claimed to care. I sat on the edge of the tub, towel draped over my shoulders, water still running. I looked down at the badge again. +1. A placeholder. A guest to her own life. They didn't forget me. They erased me. And as I stared at that deleted message, something inside snapped. Not with rage, but with clarity. If I'm the +1, then who's really the 0? The venue looked like something out of a political fundraiser, sleek, too polished, and humming with rehearsed warmth. I arrived early, hoping to find a moment of calm, but the air was already laced with tension. Iris offered a quick nod and vanished into the crowd. Dorian gave me a grin too wide to be sincere. Henrietta kissed my cheek like a diplomat greeting a foreign threat. I watched a clipboard pass from hand to hand. My name never appeared. I was invited, but I wasn't wanted. I tried to blend into the scenery, hands clutching a glass I didn't want, mind racing with everything unspoken. The blood on my face may have washed away, but the mark stayed, just beneath the skin. When the lights dimmed and the toasts began, I knew something was coming, but not this. Henrietta tapped her champagne flute, all attention swinging to her as if choreographed. Before we raise our final toast, she said, eyes glittering, we have a very special surprise for our beloved Damien. Dorian looked down, jaw tight. Iris shifted behind a floral archway. We'd like to honor Damien's achievements, Henrietta continued. And what better way than a gift from someone who loves him dearly? His sister Maribel has decided to gift him her condo. The breath left my lungs. Applause exploded like gunfire. Faces turned, clapping as if this were all some beautiful gesture of love. My name had become a prop. I hadn't agreed. I hadn't even been asked. I stood motionless, a hollow ringing in my ears. The room blurred. She kept going. A perfect new start for his marriage, thanks to Maribel's generosity. I took a shaky step back, then another. I could have screamed. I could have corrected her. But I knew the script now. If I refused, I was ungrateful. If I accepted, I gave away the one thing that wasn't theirs to take. I walked off the stage without a word. Behind the curtain, Henrietta caught up. "Oh, don't be dramatic," she hissed. "It's just paperwork. It's not even final." "You lied," I said, voice low. Dorian joined in, arms crossed. You barely use it, Maribel. You live in that apartment like it's storage. It's just sitting there. I looked between them, feeling the bottom drop out. Henrietta's voice softened. Don't make this about pride. No, I replied, voice like flint. I'm making this about ownership. I turned and left, ignoring their protests. That night, in the dim parking garage, I sat behind the wheel of my car, engine off. I reached for tissues in the glove box, needing something, anything to ground me. My fingers hit a folder, manila, unmarked. Inside, a deed transfer form, my name as the grantor, Dorian's as the recipient. The property, my condo, dated last week, signed by a woman I vaguely remembered from church potlucks. The witness line bore her name, neatly written in blue ink. A sticky note was attached. Just in case she forgets. My throat tightened. They never expected me to agree. They expected me to perform. This wasn't a request. This was a rehearsal. I closed the folder, tucked it into my handbag with steady hands, and started the engine. Let's play then. I didn't sleep. I didn't cry either. Just stared at the ceiling, remembering every camera flash from the party, the frozen smiles, the cold applause, the look on Henrietta's face like I was her greatest inconvenience. By sunrise, the ache on my temple had faded into a bruise the color of spoiled grapes. I thought about letting it go. I thought about how they'd spin the story, how Dorian would say I overreacted, how Henrietta would fake surprise. But my fingers were already dialing the precinct. The officer's nameplate read, Muncie. He looked up from his desk like I'd interrupted a nap. I'm here to report an assault, I said. He blinked. By whom? My father. The shift in his posture was slight, but I noticed. I slid my phone across the desk. Security footage. A waiter sent it to me. He tapped the screen, watched as the glass connected with my face, the blood trailing down, the crowd parting like I wasn't worth the cleanup. When it ended, he leaned back, exhaling slowly. You're his daughter? He asked. I nodded. Well, this kind of thing, it's ugly, but come on, it's a family matter. A what? He shrugged. You want to press charges? Against your own father? Think about what that'll do to your family. Just talk it out. Don't blow things up over one bad moment. I stood there, stunned. The evidence sat on his desk, glowing like an afterthought. He pushed my phone back toward me. Take a few days, cool off. As I left, the lobby air felt colder, like even the walls were ashamed of me. By evening, I still hadn't spoken. I didn't answer Iris's texts or the one voicemail from Dorian that said, let's not make this bigger than it is. Bigger? It was already seismic. Then Iris sent me a photo. No caption. Just a picture of a glossy leather-bound album with gold corners. Inside, pages filled with family photos, vacations, birthday parties, baby showers. Except I wasn't in any of them. Not the trip to Sedona, not Grandma's 80th, not even the Easter brunch I hosted at my own place. They'd edited me out, completely. Iris followed up. I didn't know. I'm sorry, it's like you never existed. I thought back to the year I moved out, the frames that went missing from the upstairs hallway. Henrietta said they were being reorganized. Now I understood. They weren't shifting memories. They were rewriting them. I opened the box under my bed. Old photos, folded notes, birthday cards with crooked handwriting. I spread them across the floor, desperate to feel something besides fury. The photos looked back at me like ghosts. I didn't belong to them. But I had belonged once. I opened my laptop and created a new folder. Truth Recovery, Phase 1. Inside would go every record they erased, every receipt, every message. Not for revenge, not yet. This was about proof. For myself. For history. For the future child I might have one day who would ask why Grandma's voice made me go silent. They didn't just hit me. They erased me. The air outside the cafe smelled like burnt coffee and betrayal. I sat in my car with the engine off, wrapped in silence thick enough to choke on. My fingertips grazed the edge of the leather folder resting on my passenger seat. A graveyard of old legal paperwork I hadn't looked at in years. They took everything from me, my voice, my history, even my face in that damn photo album. But they forgot the one thing they'd tucked away in my name, assuming I'd never be sharp enough to notice. I flipped through contracts, scribbled notes, faded business cards, and then I found it. A yellowing envelope from the title agency I interned at after college, before everything soured. Inside, a deed. Not just any deed. The house. Not my condo. The house they currently lived in. The sprawling two-story with the manicured lawn and shutters Henrietta insisted on repainting every spring. The address was typed cleanly across the top beneath it. Owner, Maribel Renee Carter. My breath caught. My fingers went numb. I remembered now. Henrietta, years ago, calling late one night, saying the family was in a tight spot. Your credit's better than mine right now, she whispered. It's just to get the approval. We'll fix it after closing. I promise they never fixed it. They never intended to. They'd lived in my house for 7 years, decorated it, hosted parties, passed it off as their own, while I walked around with their shame like an inherited bruise. And I had the papers. I didn't cry. I didn't even curse. I sat still, absorbing the slow, icy rise of something more potent than rage. Power. Back at home, I dug out my old Yahoo login, one I hadn't touched since graduate school. It took 4 attempts to guess the password. Inside were hundreds of unread emails, mostly junk, but one thread stood out, flagged and unopened. Subject line, RE, property title clarification, still under daughter's name. The body read, yes, the property is still legally in Maribel Carter's name. We are in the process of transferring it to our name. Should be finalized soon. Dated 3 years ago. Sender, Henrietta. Recipient, our bank's mortgage officer. My name, my house. Their lie. She knew. I printed the email, highlighted the date, added it to the folder with the deed, the notarization form, and the tax filings. I labeled the envelope in black Sharpie. Evidence. It was all there, the facts they counted on me forgetting. Or never finding. Their scam, dressed up as family loyalty. They underestimated me. As the sun dipped behind the roofline, I stood in my kitchen and called someone I hadn't spoken to in years, Monica Patel, my roommate from law school. She now ran a boutique firm downtown. She picked up on the second ring. Maribel? I need a consultation, I said. My voice was calm, unrecognizably calm. There was a pause, then, about what? My house, I replied, and the people illegally living in it. A silence. Then, let's move forward. I hung up and looked at the photo magnetized to my fridge. It was the house, taken on the day we first moved in. Henrietta stood on the porch, Dorian mid-laugh, and me, behind the camera. Always behind. Not anymore. They wanted war. I'll show them what ownership really means. The county clerk's office was quieter than I expected. No lines, no noise, just the faint hum of a printer and the steady rhythm of my heels on tile. I handed over the manila folder like I was submitting a grocery list, not the end of an era. The woman behind the counter barely looked up as she stamped the eviction request. They counted on me staying quiet, I whispered to myself. I counted on paper trails. By the time the notices landed in their mailbox, I was already home, boiling water for tea. I didn't need to see the chaos unfold to imagine it. Randall shouting, probably hurling something across the room. Henrietta dialing every bank contact she had, her voice trembling just enough to sound like a victim. But my phone stayed silent. I didn't answer the first ring, or the fifth. I could picture it, her accusing the world of betrayal, while he paced with clenched fists, wondering how their pawn had turned into a queen. 2 days before, Monica had walked me through every clause. Technically, they're squatters, she said deadpan. You've got every right, and if they try to contest it, we'll bury them in their own receipts. I didn't smile then. I don't smile now. Instead, I sipped my tea as the first texts rolled in. Henrietta. We need to talk. Urgently. Randall. What the hell is this, Maribel? Then, silence. followed by a missed call, then two. I didn't reply. I didn't owe them panic. The next day, I drove to a glass building downtown, tucked between a Pilates studio and a wine bar. I hadn't seen Dorian since graduation. He used to wear graphic tees and brag about cheat codes in video games. Now he wore designer loafers and a carefully gelled smirk. "Maribel," he said, motioning to a seat. "This is a surprise." "It shouldn't be," I replied, placing the listing printout on his desk. My name was absent. His wasn't. His eyes darted once. They said, "You knew they didn't own it." My voice didn't shake. "You signed anyway." "I thought it was family. I thought it didn't matter." I leaned forward. It mattered to me. He opened his mouth, closed it. I left the office 15 minutes later with a copy of his signed documents and filed an ethics complaint with the state board that afternoon. Quiet. Surgical. That night, I sat on my balcony, watching streetlights blink in rhythm with the city's pulse. I opened a new email, sent it to both Randall and Henrietta. Subject: Notice body. "You have 7 days, no more lies." No signature, just clarity. By midnight, I noticed a car idling across from my building, engine running. No one stepped out, no one drove off. I didn't flinch. I gave them the law. What they do next is on them. The morning started like any other. Light streaming through the blinds, the faint hum of the fridge. I made coffee without checking my phone. That was my mistake. By the time I opened it, the notifications swarmed like hornets. 34 missed texts, 8 voicemails, Slack messages, emails. Then the one that froze me, from Krista, a coworker I barely speak to anymore. "Is that really you in the video?" I clicked the link. The clip played automatically, muted, edited, cold. It showed me walking away from my parents, who were mid-tears on the front lawn, overlaid in bold white font. "We raised her. She threw us out." Another cut, showing Henrietta clutching a box, Randall shaking his head in devastation. Then a final still image, the eviction notice on their door. None of the glass, none of the blood, none of the shouting. Just silence and implication. The comment section was an inferno. "Heartless bitch. How can you do that to your own parents?" Greedy, millennial trash. No respect. I sat on the edge of my couch, the mug trembling in my hand. My HR rep texted next. "Can we set up a quick meeting today? Just to check in." Translation: Someone complained. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. But my lungs refused to fully expand. They hadn't just erased me. They replaced me with a villain. Iris called that afternoon. She didn't bother with small talk. "I told your mom that was going too far. I begged her not to." My voice was flat. What did she do? She hired someone, said she needed the truth, shaped better. They cut it together and sent it to some gossip channel. The account's fake, but it was created 2 days after the eviction. Of course it was. I watched the side-by-side footage. My own recording from the event synced with the viral hit. One was real. One was lethal. They clipped out the toast ambush. They clipped out Randall's swing. They clipped out the crowd's stunned silence. They left only the image of me, back turned, face unreadable, as my family wept like stage actors. It was surgical, precise, designed to destroy. 16 years ago, I sat in a media law lecture at New York University. Professor Dorn had said, "Narrative isn't what happened, it's what's shown." Now I understood him. I didn't post a denial, didn't record a reaction. Silence had been my cage, but now it was my weapon. They wanted me cornered. They wanted me to lash out. Instead, I went to my laptop. I created a folder. Counter footage. I uploaded raw files, party angle, timestamps, sound syncs. I flagged frames where Henrietta's voice called me a disappointment in heels, where Randall told someone, "She owes us? She wouldn't even be here without us." Where I bled. If they wanted the world's attention, I'd give it to them. The apartment was silent, but my chest wasn't. It rose and fell in sharp, precise breaths. I hadn't spoken to anyone in days, not to coworkers, not to Iris, not even to myself. The only sound in the room came from the soft hum of my laptop rendering the final cut. Across the screen, a blue bar inched toward completion. When it hit 100%, I clicked upload. The Dropbox link was titled, "The Truth If You Care to See It." Inside, it wasn't just video, it was evidence, memory, retaliation with receipts, the full clip from the gala, unedited, uncut, played back with crisp audio, Randall's voice growling, the clink of glass, my startled breath, the drop of a phone hitting the floor, the hush that followed as no one moved. There were screenshots too, texts from Iris. "They plan to blindside you with the condo. I didn't know how to stop it. I'm sorry." I'd included Henrietta's email from 2018. "We're working on transferring the house. It's still in my daughter's name, but that'll change." The subject line was mortgage renewal. And finally, a single-page note from me, typed in plain Arial font. "I never asked for your sympathy. I only asked you to see." Within hours, things cracked, quietly at first, one repost. Then a tweet thread from an entertainment lawyer. "Here's how this daughter got framed." Then influencers picked it up, breaking down edits, timelines, statements. Words like narrative manipulation, domestic coercion, and legal ownership began trending. Hashtags morphed from "our spoiled brat" to "Thad, she owns it." I should have felt vindicated. But the truth doesn't always land like a clean breath. Sometimes it hits like a cough after drowning. The next punch came disguised as a ding from Zillow. Someone had listed my condo. Again. I called the broker's office. No one picked up, so I didn't wait. I drove straight there. The front door of my building was propped open with a folding chair. Voices echoed from the hallway. A couple strolled out, pamphlet in hand. Inside my home. I stormed in and found the agent mid-tour talking about light exposure and hardwood flooring. I didn't wait for him to finish. "Who authorized this?" He turned, blinking too fast. Dorian said, "You know this condo isn't his," I snapped. "You've already had one cease and desist filed. Do you want another?" He started sweating. I assumed. You assumed wrong." A crowd was gathering near the door. Someone lifted their phone. The red recording light blinked in the corner of my eye. I didn't stop them. I pulled out my deed, printed and notarized. I held it up. "This property is legally mine. If you're here to tour, turn around and walk out before you're trespassing." It was satisfying, not dramatic, just quiet power, the way truth should feel. By evening, the clip had gone viral. She didn't just evict them, she exposed a dynasty of lies. That was the caption under the post, with 2.3 million views. My inbox exploded. BuzzFeed, NPR, The Cut, and 2 streaming networks. Everyone wanted the inside scoop. Everyone wanted me nice. I stared at the screen, fingertip hovering over reply. For once, I got to decide what part of me the world would see. I didn't answer a single call. Not the ones from journalists, not the ones from curious acquaintances, suddenly re-emerging with questions masked as concern. I turned down the offers, TV segments, podcast interviews, even a book deal. I didn't need validation, I needed silence, so I sat in it. The morning sun hit the condo tiles like a quiet promise. On the kitchen counter, a stack of envelopes waited. Bills, statements. One stood out, plain, unmarked, no return address. I opened it without ceremony. Inside was a single photograph. The edges were scorched, curled like dying petals. But I knew the moment instantly, my 5th birthday. I was in a yellow dress, holding a balloon shaped like a swan. Henrietta was behind me, smiling too wide. Dorian, icing on his nose. Randall, blurred in motion. And me, still there. Not cut out, not erased. I froze. 16 years ago, I walked into the backyard one October night to the smell of burnt paper. There, in the fire pit, were blackened photo corners and melted laminate, pieces of my childhood. When I asked, Henrietta said she was clearing out old junk. I never asked again. I never found any of those photos again either. Until now. No note came with it, no handwriting. Just that one salvaged frame someone clearly kept, despite orders not to. I held the picture like it might break from breath. It wasn't redemption, it wasn't healing, but it was a dent in the certainty I'd carried for so long. Later that day, I drove past the old house. It stood empty now, windows boarded in silence. A for sale sign sat crooked on the lawn. I didn't stop. I thought about Randall, about his voice behind me when I was 12, and dared to say I wanted to move away for college. You'll never survive on your own. I thought about Henrietta and her sermons at the dinner table, her obsession with appearances, the desperate clawing for power disguised as parenting, and Dorian, golden boy, mirror of their ambition. He hadn't called, not once. Just like I knew he wouldn't, but it wasn't rage that settled in my chest as I passed that empty house. It was the strange weightlessness of finality. Iris hadn't reached out either. And oddly, I didn't resent her for it. Maybe we both needed distance to figure out who we'd become after the fallout. Not everyone deserves a second chance, and not every scar needs to be traced back to the blade. That night, I lit a candle beside the only photo I now kept visible. My 5th birthday, edges burned, center intact. I whispered something to no one. Maybe to the child in that picture, maybe to myself. I didn't win, I didn't lose, but I'm finally free. Then I uploaded one last journal entry into my private folder, locked it, titled it, "Closure is a Myth." I leaned back, thinking that would be the last chapter, until I glanced at my inbox. One message waited. Subject line, "I'm sorry." From Iris. Looking back, I didn't get justice in the way people imagine, with courtrooms or applause. What I gained was far more sacred: clarity. If my story has taught me anything, it's this: silence can be survival, but truth is liberation. You don't owe anyone your forgiveness if they've never earned your honesty, but you do owe yourself peace. To anyone watching who's ever felt erased, gaslit, or dismissed, let this be your reminder: you still matter, you still exist. What would you have done if your family tried to write you out of your own story? Have you ever had to rebuild yourself from silence? If this video touched you, leave a 1 in the comments or tell me where you're watching from. If it didn't, I'd still love to hear why. Your voice matters here. And if you want more stories that stir your heart and shake your perspective, don't forget to subscribe. This story may be done, but healing, that journey never really ends.